Good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to the Atomic Snack Bar. And this is the first in an ongoing series discussing my favorite sci-fi robots from the 1970s. And number 5 on the list is Muffet II from Battlestar Galactica from 1978. And Battlestar Galactica tells the story of a group of humans fleeing their homeworlds after a massive attack by some greatly misunderstood robots who simply want to exterminate all the humans. No big thing. And with these fleeing humans, we have Muffet II, who was a robot Daggett. Basically the Battlestar version of a dog. After the original Muffet, Muffet Part 1, was killed during the Cylon attack on Caprica, Muffet II was built to take his place. And Muffet II, with his almost creepy teddy bear-like appearance, is one of my all-time favorite robot designs, which came courtesy of special effects artist John Dykstra and his team. Dykstra is an Academy Award winner and pioneer in using computer effects in film. He was not only the effects supervisor for Battlestar, but he also worked on Silent Running, foreshadowing, Star Trek the Motion Picture, and the obscure, seldom mentioned sci-fi film Star Wars. And the Muffet suit was not only a suit, but also featured radio control elements for the ears and mouth. But probably the most interesting thing about Muffet was that he was played by a chimpanzee named Evolution, nicknamed Evie for short.
Evie, chin up. Up.
Though a static version was also made for long shots without movement. Many of the cast members look back quite fondly on Evie.
He was pretty good, actually. He had a bite of Cylon's foot, and of course the Cylon then keeled over dead. He did a marvelous job of biting.
But it wasn't all fun and bananas. The temperamental ape would just randomly stop cooperating completely.
398 Baker, take 4.
Evie would go on to not only star in F Troop, but also landed roles in The Crawling Eye and Time Stalker. It's also possible I'm thinking of Forrest Tucker again, but probably not. Both Battlestar and its toy line were a bit before my time, and yet a few of the toys managed to hang around in toy stores for years after. I would see both Muffet II and the Ovion figure on the back of the card art, and man did I want both of those. But unfortunately they were long gone by that point, so I just ended up with the Imperious Leader. His hairdo kinda bothered me for some reason, so I took it off and just used the figure as a random, naked alien. And number 4 on the list is Huey, Dewey, and Louie from Silent Running from 1972.
No more Mr. Nice Duck.
Thought I was going to make a DuckTales joke, didn't you? But really, who needs jokes that actually make sense? And usually with the first episodes in an ongoing series, I go strictly with my personal favorites. But this one actually comes from viewer request. Many viewer request. So I'm listening. But Silent Running tells the story of a botanist living aboard a spaceship, which features a biodome. Nope, not making that joke. But the biodome contains a variety of plants and animals all currently missing on Earth in order to one day restore the barren planet. But when our botanist hero receives word that the biodome is to be destroyed, well, he and his robot drones, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, aren't having that. And these are really neat looking, unique robot designs that kind of remind me of a toy from the 1970s. Something like the Dinglings, more foreshadowing. And there are many credited for Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And this includes director Doug Trumbull, his father Don Trumbull, who also worked on The Wizard of Oz, Paul Krause, who was a model maker that worked on Willow and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and James Dow of Close Encounters and Star Trek the Motion Picture fame. The aforementioned Don Trumbull, who apparently designed and built the arms for the drones, also did effects for Life Force, Spaceballs, and Spaceballs parody film, Star Wars. Yeah, that's right. Don't argue. As to the suit actors, the drones were played by 4 bilateral amputees, 1 for Dewey, 2 for Huey, and 1 for Louie. Unfortunately, Silent Running appears to be the only on-screen credit for these fine performers. And speaking of that Star Wars movie, according to a 1981 Hollywood Reporter article, Universal attempted to sue 20th Century Fox, claiming that R2-D2 was a bit too close to the Silent Running drones. The case was thrown out before heading to trial though. But again, it's worth noting that Don Trumbull worked on the original Star Wars, and yet it appears that he had nothing to do with R2-D2. And number 3 on the list, L from Star Crash from 1978. And Star Crash, which is essentially a Harryhausen-style Sinbad film in space, tells the story of a scantily clad Space Caroline Munro as she gets up to some sometimes less than legal scantily clad Space Caroline Munro-esque activities. And hot on her tail, though the two would eventually team up, is a space sheriff. Nope, wrong space sheriff. We're talking about Space Sheriff L, a sophisticated police robot and southern gentleman. And next to Miss Monroe, L is the standout character of the picture. And this is a great design. Smooth and sleek, almost villain-like in appearance. He kinda looks like Robbie the Robot had a baby with one of the robot invaders from the Earth Dies Screaming. Yeah, I guess making inappropriate robot pairings is something I do now. But hey, the snack bar is a classy joint. Not to mention Elle and Caroline Munro match quite well. After a day of space adventuring, they could easily hit up a fetish club. And Elle was played by musician, writer, actor, and producer Judd Hamilton. He also happened to be married to Caroline Munro at the time. But most interesting, to me at least, was his musical career. He not only worked with the T-Bones and Judd Hamilton in the Furies, but also the Markets and the Ventures. Elle was voiced by Hamilton Camp. Kinda odd there. Judd Hamilton? Hamilton Camp? Coincidence? I think not. Camp was an actor and musician as well. He was even in a band with actor Louis Arquette of the Waltons fame and his numerous famous children. Acting-wise, Camp was in Smokey and the Bandit and episodes of The Monkees and Three's Company. But even more notable was his extensive cartoon work with vocal performances on The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, Rescue Rangers, and DuckTales/Darkwing Duck. He was the voice of Gizmo Duck.
Blabbering blatherskite!
But Elle is a great character and gives the film a bit of a western feel when he's on screen. He also happens to be on my action figure wish list. A reaction style figure would be quite the groovy. And on that, we should take a break.
You're witnessing the creation of an incredible new world. A world of unbelievable excitement and fun. The world of the Dinglings. The Dinglings, here they come. The whole fantastic bunch of them. The most incredible toys you've ever seen. All new, all different. Holy smoke, what's going on? It's Dingling Fireman coming to the rescue. He's got his own built-in pumper to save the day. Dingling Shoe Shine gives you the brightest shine you've ever seen. Dingling Answer Man's got all the answers in his head. Push the lever and he'll tell your future. Dingling Spy hides in the shadows and discovers your secrets with his hidden camera. But wait, here comes the greatest Dingling of them all, presenting King Ding, mighty ruler of the Dingling world.
And number 2 on the list is Maximilian from The Black Hole from 1979. And The Black Hole tells the story of a starship crew who run across a long-thought-lost spaceship parked right outside a black hole. And on said ship is a mad scientist, a crew of faceless drones, and the star of the show, the robot bodyguard Maximilian. And this is one of the coolest, most threatening robot designs of all time and easily the grooviest looking one on the list. I have always thought he looked like something right out of that Star Wars movie I keep mentioning. He could have easily hung out with the Imperial Guard, though Max predates them by several years. And that awesome design came courtesy of George McGinnis. McGinnis was a Disney Imagineer and the last one hired by Walt himself. He designed Space Mountain and contributed to the People Mover, the Carousel Progress, and even the Jeeps for the Indiana Jones ride. It is also very worth mentioning that he was the lead designer for one of the all-time great lost attractions, Horizons at Epcot. McGinnis said that he did around 12 different designs for Maximilian before one was selected. He was also a sci-fi fan and said that Silent Running was one of his favorite movies. You may remember Silent Running from my top 1970s Sci-Fi Robots episode, which you are probably watching right now. Maximilian didn't speak, but he made noises and those were provided by Herb Taylor. Taylor was a sound designer with credits on The Cat from Outer Space and Condor Man. Alrighty then, it's supposedly time. There's a persistent rumor that Max was named after actor Maximilian Schell, who played the mad scientist and Max's boss. But apparently this isn't true, and Max was already named that in the script. The big supposedly here, though, was that Maximilian was actually named after a real-life Nazi scientist whose middle name was Maximilian. And the last thing I wanted to mention is kind of a spoiler, so jump on ahead a minute or two if you haven't seen the film. Go ahead, I'll wait. Are you gone? But there's a popular theory that Max was actually created using Dr. McCrae, the missing father of one of our leads. But in the novelization of the film, it clearly states that Maximilian was built before McCrae's death and was actually the one that killed him. Ah, the dark days of Disney. And number 1 on the list, Jet Jaguar from Godzilla vs. Megalon from 1973. And Godzilla vs. Megalon tells the story of the noble Cetopians who have had enough of humanity's nonsense and decide to do something about it. So they do what any rational underground civilization would do, and they steal a robot in order to aid their giant beetle god Megalon. And this robot, who ends up teaming up with Godzilla, is who I'm here to discuss. My favorite Godzilla buddy, Jet Jaguar. And Jet is a great design, second only to the Super Inframan in my sleazy tiki book when it comes to the Ultraman school of giant heroes. His design and history are a wee bit complicated though, so I'm just going to take the easy way out and brush over it quickly and sloppily. But Jet came about, more or less, thanks to a kid who submitted a character named Red Alone, or Red Arone, to a monster design contest. But Red Alone would go through multiple name and design changes, eventually ending with the Jet Jaguar we know today. Though it's a little unclear who did what, special effects director Teruyoshi Nakano was heavily involved in the process. Nakano also worked on Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Zone Fighter, and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Jet was played by Sugutoshi Kamada. Kamada has a very short resume with Godzilla vs. Megalon being his standout role. The Jet Jaguar suit, who was modeled by Nobuyuki Yasumaru and Tomoki Kobayashi, was made of wetsuit material covered in foam, and the head was plastic with pieces of cartel lights used for the eyes. Jet was not only suitmation, but there were also miniatures built for the flying scenes. The first was in 1/2 scale, and the second was a much smaller version used for scenes in which the human-sized version of Jet had to fly next to Megalon. Jet would go on to make numerous appearances, though not nearly enough, in other forms of Godzilla media, including video games. He is my go-to character in the 2004 game Godzilla Saved the Earth. And that's all the time we have for this week. And remember, this is the first of an ongoing series, and the second part is already up. So if your favorite wasn't on this one, it very well could be on the next. Please like, comment, subscribe, watch the skies, and stay atomic.
Glazed potato chips. That's the best.
I like them as a snack.
Just put a bag down in front of me and I'll finish them off one by one.
They're just always fresh and crisp. And it is terrific!